In this video, I'm going to talk about some cards that I would add to a Aatchik Emerald Radian deck if I was going to build one. For 3 colorless, black, black, and a green, legendary creature, Insect Druid. It has, when it enters, create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each artifact and or creature card in your graveyard. And whenever another insect you control dies, put a +++ counter on it, each opponent loses 1 life. It's a 3/3 for 6 mana. You can go a number of different ways with this commander. You might want to build an Insect Kindred deck. You might care about filling up the graveyard with big creatures and artifacts and then reanimating them. Or you can try to benefit off of its numerous 1/1s it's going to make and play a sacrifice strategy that's going to take advantage of those. And this is a payoff for sacrificing those insects. One card I would definitely add if you're going to build an insect type deck is a Zask Skittering Swarmlord. For 3 colors and a green, it's a legendary creature insect. It has, you may play lands and cast insect spells from your graveyard. But whenever another insect you control dies, put it on the bottom of someone's library, then mill 2 cards. Every time one of our tokens die, we get to mill 2. We can cast other insects from our graveyard, but it's going to have trouble doing that because the insect that we have die isn't just going to come back, it's going to put on the bottom. So you can't cast an insect and sacrifice it, cast the same one and sacrifice it. It also has an activate ability that will give our 1/1 insects that our commander makes Death Touch, which is pretty good for blocking and then maybe sneaking in some attacks to build up speed or any other combat damage effects. Another insecty type card I would add is Grist the Hunger Tide. For 1, a black and a green legendary planeswalker, Grist. But it has, as long as Grist the Hunger Tide isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature token in addition to its other types. In your hand, in your library, and in your graveyard, it is an insect. +1. Create a 1/1 black-green insect creature token, then mill a card. If an insect is milled this way, put a loyalty counter on it and repeat this process. -2, sack a creature. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker. -5, each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. It builds additional 1/1 insects like our commander does. You can sacrifice the 1/1 insects that our commander makes to destroy target creature or planeswalker, or sacrifice our commander to it, destroy something, and then be able to recast our commander and get a bunch more insects into play. And it's a payoff for having a lot of cards in your graveyard. Another card I would add is Crawling Infestation. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill 2. Whenever 1 or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere during your turn, make a 1/1 insect. Only triggers once per turn. Another way to fill up our graveyard to trigger our commander, milling cards, and then every time we do mill a creature card, we get to make another insect we can sacrifice or take advantage of. Ashnod's Altar is really good in this deck because we can sacrifice our insects to get colorless. So our commander costs 3 colorless, black, black, and a green. If we have multiple instances of black, black, and a green, like we sacrificed to something that can make mana, we can sacrifice our other insects that make colorless. And as long as we're doing the thing, we're going to be able to sacrifice our commander and a bunch of insects to get it into play. And because it makes more insects, as long as we're keeping up with the mill in our graveyard, we're going to be able to recast our commander from the command zone and not worry about the commander tax. Sir Conrad the Grim. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. We're building a sacrificey deck that's going to take advantage of all these 1/1 insects, and we're just going to make a ton of insects. Plus, it has an activate ability that can help us mill some. This card is really good in any kind of sacrifice or graveyard type deck. And as long as we're trying to create a bunch of insects and sacrifice a bunch of insects, Mirkwood Bats will punish our opponents and each opponent loses a life, and it's a payoff for all of the sacrificing things we're doing and creating all of our insects. Speaking of being able to sacrifice creatures to make treasures to be able to cast our commander, pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. As long as we have a way to gain life when we're doing the sacrificing, like a Blood Artist effect, this can help us make the colored mana, and you can have a combo where you just keep playing your commander, create the treasures. By sacrificing the 1/1s that it makes, sacrifice the other 1/1s to the Ashnod's Altar, and then just do it again, and you have a bunch of triggers, and every single time you sacrifice one of our insects, our commander is going to punish our opponent by 1. Underrealm Lich is another way to fill up our graveyard, so we continuously have things in our graveyard to make us 1/1 insects. If you would draw a card and send a look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. It also has an ability that lets us pay for life to give it indestructible, so it's harder to get out of play. we're going to want to make sure that we're adding a lot of cards to our graveyard because we don't want to just create 1 or 2 insects. We want to create a number of insects. This is kind of a sneaky way that lets us mill cards consistently throughout the game. But it's never going to be that big of a threat our opponents need to remove right away. Entomb is a great card to get a specific creature card in your graveyard. Maybe you have creatures that care about being in the graveyard, or cards that reanimate. And if you're playing a reanimator strategy with this, Entomb can just go ahead and get that into the battlefield, get into your graveyard so you can put onto the battlefield and make our commander a little bit stronger. Finally, I have Quag Feast. For 2 mana, it's a sorcery. Choose target creature, planeswalker, or vehicle. Mill 2, then destroy the chosen permanent if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. We're playing a graveyard deck. We're going to have a lot of cards, and this is a way to mill and be a removal spell, so it checks 2 boxes for our decks, makes our commander's ETB stronger, and destroys our opponent's permanents. How are you planning to build an Aatchik deck? You let me know your thoughts in the comments below.